Like most ancient peoples, Babylonians worshipped many gods. Their religion centered around idolatry. They feared the forces of nature. In the barren deserts of Mesopotamia, the margin between survival and prosperity was a very thin one indeed. Too little or too much rain could wipe out a whole year's food supply. The Babylonians worshipped scores of different deities, looking to them for mercy and protection, conducting intricate and sometimes chilling rituals. The gods needed appeasing. In ancient times, whoever controlled the religion controlled the people. It was no wonder then that the Babylonians believed their king reigned as the earthly representative of the gods. They were among the first to fuse religion and politics into a totalitarian mindset. That mindset is carried on throughout history. Idolatry permeated every facet of ancient Near Eastern life. And the problem with this was that the ordinary person was almost completely cut off from the knowledge of the true God, the God of the Bible. This, we will see, is also the Babylonian pattern. Hammurabi's laws enabled the king to maintain strict control. After all, Babylon was built on slave labor, and that state required complete subordination of the individual to its power and its gods.
The ancient monarchs were totalitarian. While they ruled, they had almost absolute authority because they were the legislature, the judicial, and the executive branch all tied up in one. Practically, historically, every king has, in a sense, set themselves up as little gods. There are very few rulers who recognize God in terms of a power greater than they are. Oh, they may use the language, but they see themselves as above the law, as the key interpreters of the law. So I always say there are just very few rulers that you could say did not see themselves as little gods.
Hammurabi forged one of the greatest empires of the ancient Near East. He laid the basis of a civilization that would endure for more than 1,000 years after his death. But it was a civilization based on power, prestige, the pursuit of wealth, and with little knowledge of the Creator God. Even Hammurabi's dynasty could not last forever. After a reign of more than 40 years, barbaric tribesmen from the mountains in the east moved in to raid and weaken Babylonia. A long, drawn-out time of trouble began. Around 1,600 years before Christ, Babylon was sacked and burned by another people mentioned in the Bible, the Hittites. The Hittites carried off Babylonian wealth and prisoners to far-off Anatolia, our modern Turkey. Later, the Assyrians, well known to readers of the Old Testament, conquered Babylon. Centuries of political chaos would prevail before Babylon would rise again as an independent city. The first great age of Babylon had ended. Ancient Assyria was one of Babylon's powerful rivals. This massive human-headed winged bull is striking testimony to the power of Assyria. The Assyrian Empire was a huge military machine, widely regarded as one of the most brutal and oppressive kingdoms in history. In 689 BC, Assyria's hammer blows inflicted the worst humiliation yet upon Babylon. In an attempt to throttle a Babylonian resurgence, the Assyrian hordes under King Sennacherib pillaged and burnt Babylon. They threw its rubble into the Euphrates. The Assyrians flooded the city. Its very foundations were destroyed. Sennacherib boasted, "I made its destruction more complete than that by a flood, that in days to come the site of the city and its temples and gods might not be remembered. I completely blotted it out with floods of water and made it like a meadow." Sennacherib left Babylon thinking he had dealt the death blow. Babylon does not go down easily. She would rise again to claim her revenge. And that's precisely what happened. The site of Babylon was eventually occupied and rebuilt by the Chaldeans. It was the Chaldeans who finally humbled proud Assyria. It was in the year 612 BC when the the Chaldeans stormed the walls of Nineveh, Assyria's capital city. Nineveh fell. It was utterly destroyed. Today, the ruins of Nineveh attest to the near-total destruction of that ancient city. So complete was Nineveh's disappearance that it wasn't rediscovered until just 150 years ago. Assyria's power was broken, but under the Chaldeans, Babylon was back with a vengeance. And here is a major clue to biblical history and prophecy. Babylon, this great city, this great symbolic nemesis of God, emerges repeatedly from the abyss of destruction. She reappears again and again on the stage of history, powerfully influencing the course of civilization. The Assyrian collapse left a vacuum which both Egypt and Babylon sought to fill. 1,000 years after the golden age of Hammurabi, Babylon at last had a chance to regain the prominence and prestige that had once been hers. It was the summer of 605 BC. Well-armed Babylonian forces struck a sudden and decisive blow against the Egyptians. Their forces met at Carchemish in northern Syria. The battle cost Egypt its control of the Middle East. Now, almost a millennium after Hammurabi, Babylon once again held undisputed power in the ancient Near East. Yes, Babylon was back. But could a resurgent, rebuilt Babylon avert the fate that had already overtaken Nimrod's city and Hammurabi's empire? Time would tell.
No one said it had to be this way. Why are we the victims of their final word? Dying world is killing us so